Indigenous communities around the world are stewards of some 80% of global biodiversity. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples have been devoted to living in balance and harmony with nature. They have observed and learned the behavior of biodiversity. Creating the valuable link between science and indigenous knowledge contributes to the fight against the climate crisis. And so, one would think that indigenous peoples would have a seat around the table, a say on what is decided. In previous COPs, indigenous peoples were kept at the margins. Was it different at COP28 in Dubai?
It is important for Indigenous peoples to be here, although we're here in very small numbers. We are still at the margins. This hasn't changed from previous COPs. I mean, I've said this before and I say it again. Indigenous peoples, unfortunately, we don't wear the pink badges, right? Our badges are limited to the rooms that we can actually get into. And so our lobbying has to be creative, it has to be intense.
December 5th was set aside as Indigenous Day at COP28. Indigenous peoples from all over the world joined to make their voices heard. The day was meant to reinforce the urgency of a fully inclusive, all-of-society approach in the just transition. And for Indigenous people, key to their fight against climate change is accessing financing. Minister of Sustainable Development and Climate Change, Orlando Habet, says Indigenous peoples should be part of the larger conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely important to have indigenous people who have been the stewards of many of our forests, especially the conservation of forests, conservation of our water sources. A lot has to be done. I think right now, on the global scale, they are asking for also financing because they need to be on the table, but also be able to continue with the conservation of those natural resources. Many times there are also people who are displaced because of climate change. So they need to be around the table to make some of those decisions, and at least, if not the final decisions, to be able to contribute during the consultations.
Christina Koch of the Maya Leaders Alliance says that Indigenous peoples play a crucial role in addressing and adapting to climate change. Their traditional knowledge, passed down through generations, encompasses a deep understanding of local ecosystem and sustainable practices.
The last remaining forested areas, protected areas, tangible nature is found where Indigenous peoples are also found. Much of Indigenous peoples' lands and territories is the focus of many of these conversations. And so it's really impractical to imagine climate solutions without Indigenous people's participation, engagement, knowledge systems, and proposed solutions. Indigenous peoples are already adopting, are already mitigating, are already doing the best we can to continue to protect the last remaining forests.
And many indigenous communities are directly affected by the impacts of climate change, such as changes in weather patterns, disruption in ecosystem, and threats to their traditional ways of life. Recognition of indigenous rights, inclusion of their knowledge in climate action plans, and collaboration with these communities are essential for effective climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies. Dean Bebe, a climate activist of Zimbabwe, says that efforts to address climate change must prioritize the voices and needs of indigenous peoples.
This means a lot for the indigenous people in Africa because already climate change is here. And the fossil fuels are the main driver of biodiversity loss. And we're losing our heritage and our forests. And as a result, our culture and our understanding of how we interact with the environment. And what this has provided is not only extraction of just simply resources, but extraction of our cultures. And which is why we need a holistic way to build towards a pathway that is both based on equity, justice, and also mindfulness for humanity.
Indigenous people need to be around the table.
Yeah, indigenous people need to be invited. They need a voice. At the end of the day, it is the indigenous people that eventually paved a path for us to develop, and it's indigenous knowledge that will help us to preserve the burning world currently right now.
If you come on the global scale and you see the amount of Indigenous peoples all around the world, our stories are very similar, if not identical. And it is because as key actors in the protection of forests and the stewardship of lands and territories, we are the real actors. We are doing many things that has has lent itself to the protection of these places. And so, yes, there is much to learn from Indigenous peoples' knowledge systems, from their ways of knowing and being.
Restoring biodiversity can offer over 30% of the required mitigation efforts to attain the 1.5 degrees Celsius target by 2030. Nature plays a pivotal role in mitigating climate related risks like floods and fires. Preserving natural ecosystem not only presents opportunities for approximately 10 trillion US dollars in new businesses ventures, but also has the potential to generate nearly over 400 million new jobs. According to Saina, a Russian singer and a member of the indigenous peoples in the Siberian region, and Gerson Paredes of Rios to River, it's time to listen to Earth and save it.
I think it's a message for peoples around the world. We are children of Mother Earth, and we have one team with Mother Earth, and we need to listen her vibration, her breath, because it's so important for us, for peoples, and it's high vibration, and it's harmony, it's balance, uh, and all problems because we don't listen Mother Earth's vibration, and this it's mistake.
Kespi Pachamama. Kespi Pachamama. Save the mother earth. Save the mother sea. Save the mother water. Save the brothers trees. Save the children of the world. Here, the original peoples of the world. This is the holy meeting, the Eagle and the Kun.
Reporting from COP28 in Dubai, Hipolito Novelo, News 5.
This reporting was delivered in partnership with the Commonwealth Foundation. Read more at commonwealthfoundation.com.